What up, Jippers? Plays back once again for another No Man's Sky next video, and today we're going to be talking about the next patch, which is 1.55. This patch is now available on every single platform. You should see this popping up if you haven't already got it and downloaded it. It was released on August the 10th, and it has 65 separate fixes or improvements listed in one freaking patch. So this is definitely the patch so far. It seems like they've dropped this as a kind of mega patch, loads and loads of issues resolved, loads of tiny little improvements, and they have left a little message to say, hello everyone, after the initial round of addressing high priority stability and performance issues, the team have been working intensely on a large number of gameplay fixes and improvements. As always, thank you for playing the game and taking the time to report any issues you encounter. We have now released update 1.55, which includes the fixes and improvements detailed below. And we are going to go through every single one of these fixes, and a lot of them are really freaking important ones that people have been wanting for a while. But before we jump into them, there's some more general things that I want to talk about that seem to have been fixed, that seem to be working now. Some of the key things from this list, but also some other things that I'm seeing being reported as now working or now being fixed since this patch dropped. And the huge one that of course we need to talk about is the glyph issue. Now, for those that don't have any idea what I'm talking about, until this patch dropped, so many people had been having an issue with getting glyphs. In fact, I haven't actually seen anyone who didn't already have the glyphs before Next who hasn't had this issue, and that of course was every time they tried to collect a new glyph, they would pick it up, but they would not actually learn any new glyph codes. So this was really frustrating. People trying to get to new hub worlds, people trying to portal to places, people trying to meet up in the game by using the portal mechanic were not able to do so because they couldn't get any of the glyphs to actually input the codes and travel anywhere. So super annoying, but that now does seem to be completely fixed. Now, there is another really good thing that seems to be happening now that I don't think is directly related to this patch. I think it's more of a background operation where they've been having trouble with the servers and they have now been able to iron that out, or at least they're starting to iron it out and get it smooth, is bases showing up for everybody else. Now, this wasn't affecting everyone. Some people could see other people's bases, so if you build a base, if you upload a base on a planet, that should be visible to anybody else that goes there on the same platform as you. So if I build a really cool base in my normal mode on PS4 and you come there and try to look at that, you should be able to see it. Now, what has been happening is that people were building bases, uploading them, but other players going there just couldn't see it. It wasn't showing up at all. It was only showing up for people that were in your direct co-op game, and even that was having some kind of quirks, bugs and issues. But now it seems like lots of people are able to see other people's bases. The reason this is so exciting, of course, is because now if you go to a planet somewhere like the Galactic Hub, somewhere like the Jipper Colony Hub, if you go to these places, you should see loads and loads of bases being built. You should be able to look at them even if the players aren't online, even if you're not playing with them. And that, of course, is pretty important when it comes to making a proper hub world, building cities, building colonies, building little villages and outposts. You need to be able to see each other's bases, and now it at least looks like that's starting to work properly. I'm sure there's still going to be some issues, some server troubles, but that definitely looks like it's on the mend, so that's the one I'm really excited about. The Race Initiator is now available. So the Race Initiator, the piece that's needed to start a proper racetrack to initiate a race, that has been addressed by this patch. Another big one, especially if you're out there trying to build really cool racetracks and you can't actually get a racetrack initiator. Bit frustrating, but now that seems to be fixed. So that's another really good one, and I'm quite excited about building some really cool racetracks in creative mode and then inviting you guys there to come and try them out. There have also been a ton of mission fixes. These can be super frustrating. They don't affect everyone, and of course if you're not trying to storm through the missions, or if you've already done the missions because you're playing on an old save, they don't affect you. If you are a new player or someone playing on a legacy save that gets to one of these bugged missions and then just gets stuck and you can't progress the story anymore, that can really be kind of game breaking, you know, that stops your progress. It can be really disheartening, but they seem to have fixed and addressed a whole load of issue issues and crashes with this patch. So we'll go through those in detail as we go through the list, but that is a really good thing. Another one that's not mentioned on here specifically, but I have had people telling me is now working, is the Frigate fuel issue. there were lots of people that were having trouble being able to get the fuel. It wasn't working for them. They weren't able to do it and they weren't able to use it. Now that seems to be fixed, at least for a couple of people that have told me that now they can do that. So hopefully, if you are having this issue, go back now after 1.55, try it, see if it works. Let us know in the comments below. But I think that has now been ironed out. So good luck to you. Hopefully that is now fixed for you as well. And the other really big one that I do want to talk about before we start getting into this crazy list is farming. Farming in the game since Next has changed. It's not the farming we know and love. It doesn't work in the same way that it used to work before the Next update. Now farming takes place in real time. If I plant crops at my base, they will grow, they will continue to grow even when I'm not playing the game. If I log out, if I turn off, they will be growing in real time so that if I go back 2 days later, boom, there you go. My farm will be ready to harvest. My crops will have grown just like a real farm should. This is a bit of a controversial change. Lots of people have been saying they didn't want this, particularly because this patch has actually drastically increased the time it takes for a lot of crops to grow. So where before we were looking at things growing in sort of 20 minutes to half an hour if you sit there and wait at your base, just leave the game running while you go and get a snack or watch TV and then come back and you'd have your harvest and you'd be making your millions. That is no longer the case. You do now have to wait a very long time, in some cases a couple of real world days, before crops will grow. So of course, if farming was your grind, if that was your thing, if you would just sit at your base, let your crops grow, harvest them, sell them, and do the same, rinse and repeat until you are mega rich, you're probably already rich from doing that up until now, but you're gonna have to change your approach to that since this patch, because that will now take a lot longer to do. And the reason I personally like this, I get why some people don't, but for me, this feels a lot more authentic. It feels more like how farming in a game should work. You know, if I've got a really cool mega farm, if I'm setting up these farms on different planets and these cool crops that I'm growing, I don't want to sit there for 20 minutes and go away from the screen just to wait for them to pop up and then that to be my gameplay loop. I'd like to be able to do that, plant a load of crops at my home base, go off adventuring, go off exploring, and then just know that when I do come back, they'll have grown. If I'm not able to play for a couple of days, I want the game to feel like a living, breathing world. When I come back, I want it to be as if the game has moved on. The world has still continued. It doesn't just only work when I'm playing, and I feel like this helps with that. For me personally, I think this is really cool. I can now set up a farm, go off, do other stuff. If I can't get on for a few days, not a big issue. Then when I do log on, I can go back to my farm and my crops will have grown. So I like that. Some people don't, but just definitely be aware of that if farming is a big thing for you. There are, of course, lots of ways now that are genuinely good ways to make money. Scanning creatures, harvesting whispering eggs, selling certain technology modules and items and upgrades. All of that kind of stuff is out there. There are loads of little glitches and things you can do if you're like super into just getting money and you don't care how you do it. You know, the duplicate glitch with the refiners, placing a couple of them next to each other. Lots of ways out there to make money super fast if that's all you care about. So don't worry about this too much, but just be aware that things are different with farming now. So that's the big things that have changed with this patch. There's a lot of other stuff in here. We're going to work through that line by line now, but I just wanted to kind of raise your attention to those if you're just here for the kind of highlights. I did want to mention that this patch was the only patch so far that's given me personally any issues. I've not really encountered any major problems or bugs or glitches with No Man's Sky ever since the next update dropped. I know loads of you have. I think I've just been very lucky, but this patch did completely break all of my Xbox saves visually, at least for a couple of hours. So when I logged on yesterday after this patch had dropped, on my Xbox version, it wasn't affecting me on PC or PS4, but on the Xbox version, which I hadn't had any problems with, every single tree in the game was loading in as this weird square tile. It was some sort of issue with the way it was being generated. I think it was displaying like the boundary box or the generation tile that trees actually pop in on instead of the tree, so it looked super weird. It was still playable. It wasn't a performance issue, you know, I could still run around and do stuff, but it looked ghastly. I could just see these big black tiles all around me wherever I looked, and then when I got really close to them, they would pop in and kind of fix, but everything else around in the distance would still be these big black tiles. So it looked horrible. Obviously, I couldn't make any videos of the Xbox series while it was like that, but today it seems to be okay, and it wasn't affecting me on new saves. It was only on the free saves that I already had on my Xbox One X. I don't know if that was because of this patch, but it only started happening when I downloaded the patch, although that does now seem to be okay. So I need to keep an eye on that and just be aware of that. If you do see something similar to that, please let me know in the comments. But from what I can tell,
far, most people playing on Xbox weren't having that issue, so I think you should be okay. And I did even have a few people telling me that they'd had similar types of glitches on PS4 before this patch, but they'd been intermittent. It wasn't something that was happening all the time. It was just something every now and again when they logged on they would see. So maybe do a reboot, maybe do a reinstall, or maybe just turn it off for a bit and come back to it and see if it fixes it. But if you're seeing stuff like this, make sure you're letting us know in the comments, so hopefully we can warn other people if it does seem to be with a particular planet type or only on Xbox or something like that. So yeah, that's all the big stuff. Let's get into the list. And there are a lot of other big things in here. Those are just the things that I immediately was like, yes, these are fantastic. I have got to say, they have been pushing these patches out really quickly because there have been a lot of fixes, a lot of problems that they've had to tweak, and they've had server issues going on in the background as well as all of this stuff. They must be completely hammering out these fixes and troubleshooting stuff right now. I'm guessing they're not having the most amazing time, but hopefully they are at least enjoying the fact that everyone seems to be loving the update as a whole, if you just take aside some of these little problems and bugs that people were having. So yeah, really good stuff. Hopefully they're going to keep doing that, and I'm guessing as soon as they've got things fixed a little bit more, that's when we'll start seeing the community events take place, and I am excited for that. I cannot wait to see how that works. Okay, so running through the list, we've got bug fixes, fixed a memory leak in the UI, fixed a number of crashes to do with freighters, a crash that affected particular planet types, a crash that would occur while creating a racetrack in a borrowed exocraft. So some of these are like quite obscure things that wouldn't affect most people, but I imagine they were super frustrating to the few people they did affect, and they are still trying to fix everything they can, everything they see. So if you're having problems, keep on reporting them. Use the link on the No Man's Sky website, use the Zendesk, report your bugs, and of course the more people that are reporting a bug, the better chance it's got of being put on the priority list for the next patch. We had reduced texture memory usage to improve overall stability, fixed an issue where players would get stuck in the Purge mission and in the Ghost in the Machine mission, and an issue where players would receive incorrect mission instructions when returning to the Mind Arc. Now this next one's a goodie. Fixed issues where Sentinels would chase players forever if they didn't complete the final weapon specialist mission. I hadn't heard about this. Sentinels in general are pretty tough in the game now, so I imagine being stuck with them chasing you for the rest of your life in the game would have been a real issue. So I'm glad that one's been fixed for anyone that was having that issue. And if you were having that issue, please tell me about it, and I really hope you captured some video footage of you just raging against the Sentinels for an eternity. They also fixed an issue that was causing dialogue and rewards at certain found buildings to repeat, including the Traveler Graves and Portal Glyphs. So that's all resolved now. Fixed an issue that caused players upgrading their save to not have any primary missions if they were on the tutorial for expanding inventory at the time that they moved over to next. Fixed an issue that prevented pre-next saves from accessing base computer archive missions. Another big one, if you couldn't get the base computer missions in the next update, that should be working for you now, so please let us know in the comments if that is fixed for you. Fixed an issue where some non-existent base parts were showing up in the guide. I would love to see what these non-existent base parts were. I hadn't heard about this, but now I'm kind of thinking maybe some future base building parts had slipped in through the code that we weren't supposed to see. I don't know. Did you see that? Let me know if you did, and what kind of stuff were you seeing. Fixed an issue where legacy saves would not know the recipe for microchips, the large refiner, and some advanced survival products. I had so many people asking me, how do I get the large refiner? How do I get the large refiner? And I was a bit confused because I was like, you just build it, you just get the recipe. It's the same as everything else. I don't know what's happening there. I don't know what to tell you. But it turns out the reason they were struggling is because they just couldn't get it because it was bugged, and that has now been fixed. So if you couldn't get the large refiner, that should now be okay for you. Fixed an issue where trade commodities were not available for sale in the space station. So one of the big ones here that's now available is the efficient launch thruster. That's a huge thing that people need to make launching off of planets less resource intensive and more efficient. That should now be available, as well as a load of other stuff that was missing previously. Basically, if there was anything you couldn't buy that you were trying to buy that you needed to buy, hopefully that's now fixed for you. Fixed an issue where player ships could shoot themselves in multiplayer. Another one that sounds kind of freaking hilarious, but I'm guessing probably frustrating if people had ended up killing themselves that way. Fixed an issue where base parts were not available in the blueprint analyzer. Another really big one, if you weren't able to get stuff, you couldn't unlock stuff, that should now be fixed for you, or at least you should now be able to progress and unlock them as you go. Fixed an issue where players would get stuck if they died before using the navigation data in the tutorial. Another one that I hadn't heard a lot, but I imagine as a new player jumping in, getting the game broken as you're going through the tutorial is a huge problem. So fixing things like this is absolutely crucial. Fixed an issue where labels of hot, cold, thermal protection upgrades were the wrong way around. Fixed an issue where terrain edits caused by building parts would regenerate in multiplayer. So for some people, when they were building a base, they would do loads of really cool work with the terrain editor, hollowing out caves, hollowing out rooms, making really complex underground little base systems with the terrain. Then they were getting hit with all of that terrain just filling itself back in after they were finished or partway through the build. Super annoying, but hopefully that's fixed now. If you do something new with the terrain manipulator, you shouldn't have that. But there could still be some issues, so definitely report those and let us know in the comments if you are still seeing stuff like that. I've been lucky. I've not had any of those kind of problems, but that would really annoy me if I'd built something awesome underground and then it had just filled itself back in. So yeah, definitely warn people if that's still happening to you. Fixed an issue with base computers placed inside other bases could not be deleted. Fixed an issue where ships would spawn on the same landing pad. That sounds pretty funny. Fixed a number of incorrect refiner recipes, expanded available refiner recipes, removed the chance to get nanites from buried technology modules. So that is no longer a way to get nanites. You will need to go with all of the other ways out there, and there are still plenty, but yeah, that's not going to give you them anymore. Reduced the frequency of storms in some situations. Lots of people reporting that storms were over the top, ruining the game for them, happening every 2 minutes and lasting for 5 minutes. Hopefully that's what this is talking about and you won't see that anymore. I imagine there's still going to be some planets that are super crazy stormy, and I want that to happen, but it should be less frequent and it shouldn't be ruining every planet you go to. Slightly increased the cost of launch fuel, but made one canister entirely refill the thrusters. So some rebalancing there. Hopefully that works out to be a good positive change overall. In normal mode, slightly reduce the base rates of hazard and life support usage. Reduce the radius at which Sentinel drones will investigate players, so that is going to make it a little bit easier to escape from them. Reduce the time required to scan discoveries with the analysis visor. This is a really, really good one, actually. Small change, doesn't sound major, but quality of life, that's going to make playing the game a much smoother experience. You're not going to be stuck trying to scan a bird for like 10 minutes. So yeah, good change there. Increase the recharge rate of the jetpack when on board a space station. Place the space anomaly marker on the entrance to the anomaly rather than the center of the model. So when you're trying to fly into it from a distance, you don't just hit the side. You now know exactly where to target your trajectory. Fixed an issue where mission markers would not attach to the correct base. Reduced the number of whispering eggs around abandoned buildings, so Miss L Plays is not going to like that one. You're not going to be able to get as many millions of buckaroonies from each whispering egg area, but I'm guessing it's still going to be a pretty freaking good way to make some money early on in the game. Fixed an issue with rain audio, added audio to the target tagging UI, fixed a bug in the auto-aim system concerning large creatures, reduced the critical hit zone for biological horrors, so they are going to be harder to kill. Yikes. Fixed an issue with creature replication that could cause creatures to freeze. Fixed an issue where Mordite would not be awarded to the correct player when killing creatures in multiplayer. Fixed an issue where third-person camera would be sluggish. Fixed an issue where players respawning in survival mode would have no life support and rapidly die again and again and again. Fixed an issue where some of Nada and Polo's missions had untranslated text. Fixed an issue where some of the procedural missions given by NPCs had untranslated text. Fixed an issue where some exotic biomes incorrectly reported their weather as fine or calm. That would have been a shock. Fixed an issue where chairs did not display their text correctly. And where launch fuel tutorial did not trigger correctly. Fixed a number of incorrect timings of mission updates. Fixed an issue where activating the torch didn't close the quick menu. Okay, that's actually a pretty good one. That happens to me all the time. And it takes me ages to then go and close the menu. Sometimes I just don't. Fixed an issue where the Infraknife accelerator projectiles would originate from behind the player's ship. Huh. It's like you've got rear missile launchers. That's kind of strange. Fixed an issue where the freighter would not be visible to other players in multiplayer. A number of issues where expeditions would reward the wrong player in multiplayer. An issue where fleet frigates would return to the wrong location on completion of an expedition. And an issue where changing between first and third person camera while on a ladder would break the player animations. Fixed an issue where players would lose access to the main menu after reloading a save just after upgrading to next. Now on PC, pressing P will default to opening the log rather than the options, and options continues to be the default option for the escape button. pattern, fixed an issue where Korvac's eye textures would become misaligned. So this was happening to me on PS4. Every single Korvax I saw would have a glitched face display. That should now be fixed. Fixed an issue where falling animations wouldn't work, so those really cool animations should happen for you now if you weren't seeing them before. And of course, they fixed the issue where the sliding animation would show when you were swimming. So this happened to Just Jared when we were playing in our last episode of the Just Jippers multiplayer on Next. He was swimming around in the water, but his character was doing like the wobbly arm animation as if he was sliding down a hill. So it looked super strange. I've had this happen to me a few times. I thought it was quite funny, not a major problem, but obviously it's nice that that's smoothed out. But we got some funny memories of what it looked like. Fixed an issue that would stop players from firing or reloading their multi-tool in specific situations. Fixed an issue where multi-tool lasers would bend in the wrong direction. And an issue where the multi-tool glitched when trying to go into the analysis visor. As well as a number of issues for players in specific time zones. So that's all of the things listed there. Of course, they're still working to smooth out stability and performance and optimization. And it looks like they're working hard to try and smooth over the server issues they're having in the background. So loads of work going on here, loads of good improvements. If you're still having issues that aren't on here and haven't been fixed since this patch, make sure you are reporting them. That's the only way they're going to know about them. That's how they're going to fix them. Keep reporting them. Encourage anyone else that's having them to report them, and hopefully they'll be addressed in the next patch, or at least in one of the patches that will drop in the near future. So yeah, that's it for 1.55. Absolutely huge list of things they fixed here. I can't imagine how much they're working right now. Hopefully we're all hanging in there and bearing with any issues we have got, because overall the update has been an incredible experience, and I cannot wait until they've got through some of this initial fix and optimization stuff and they start focusing on adding some more new stuff, some little improvements. And of course, once they've done all of this, that will allow them to then focus on the first community event season, which I think most people are quite excited for, and I'm sure the reason we haven't seen any of that yet is because of all of this stuff. Of course, this has to be the priority. We want people to be able to actually play the game without problems, and then we'll get to see all of the other cool stuff that comes next. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that one, guys. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like and a comment. I haven't been doing these patch videos for every little tiny patch. This one was freaking huge, so I did want to address it, and it has fixed some of the main ones, like the glyph issue. So I'm really pleased with this one, and hopefully from now on everyone is going to be having a nice smooth experience, or at least a completely playable one. I'm sure there will still be some little tiny things that come up and some things that people haven't even found yet, but yeah, keep reporting them, keep playing, keep enjoying, and I will catch you in the next video very soon. Take care, guys, and peace. Just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to every single one of my current Patreon supporters: Anarchy, Dale from the Atlas Hub, Vogia, David D, Dead D Reza, Kicker, Forgotten Stoner, Heath, Husband Vader, Jens, Jeremy J, Joanne's A, Good Handed, Lukash, Mac for a Day, Madeline J, Malindog, Mark F, Michael, Amras, Neil B, NTB, Okami, Ongrad, Autumn Long, Paul Lawson, Rasmus K, Legion 245, Shiroko Majelli, Sam W, The Golden Geck, The Portrait Dude, Todd C, Todd H, Ty the Blazer, UK Gamer 84, Vanilla, YO, and Ovind. Thank you for supporting me and believing in what I do. You guys are the best.